This week in Come Follow Me, we have Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. And you could attach the Song of Solomon, but you notice the footnote on the Song of Solomon. Joseph Smith said it's not inspired writing, so we usually just skip it, even though there are some interesting things in there. Okay, a few little things about Proverbs, and maybe a few brief teaching tips for you. We don't know who wrote Proverbs. It's attributed to Solomon, son of David, but we really don't know. He probably wrote some of it, but some of the things may have been added later. The Bible Dictionary says something that's interesting. It's best to think about the Proverbs as a library of the wisdom of the Israelites. Some of its content is deeply spiritual, while other does not rise above the plane of worldly wisdom. So there's a little interesting. Similar to Psalms, a lot of times it's fun to have a student, I want you to write a proverb, or at least let's identify a proverb. Kids today like to do ancient Chinese proverb says, and they're usually just made up, but sometimes there's a little bit of wisdom in there. So let's take a look at just a couple things and give you a little teaching idea. Again, what is a proverb? It's a short saying that expresses truth, usually about life, human nature. In the book of Proverbs, it does a lot of consequences of righteousness or wicked behavior. The one proverb that I think a lot of kids like, I don't get it, but yet it's one of the most famous ones, is Proverbs 6, 16 through 19, where it says, "These 6 things doth the Lord hate, yet 7 are an abomination unto him." That always confused me as a kid. If he hates those 6 things, why are 7 an abomination? There's only 6 of them. Remember, 7 is a number that symbolizes completeness. So they list the 6 sins, things that the Lord hates, but remember, it's a complete list, so they always throw in that number 7 there. So how do you teach this? Well, there's lots of different ways. I think, again, go through the fundamentals of learning. Have them identify a proverb and say, what's the truth in that proverb? And then this is where a classroom, it could be primary, it could be young men's, young women's, seminary, institute, it could be at home. How do you know that is true? What experience in your life have you had that you can testify that that proverb is true? Or what evidence have you seen that shows that that proverb is true? And then if it is true, this is a powerful time to have application. What should we be doing in our lives to live this proverb? What does it look like in my life? What should I stop doing, or what should I start doing to live the principle or the doctrine that's behind that proverb? So my next teaching tip is bring in the basic doctrines. Okay, here's a proverb or a Ecclesiastes, a wise saying by the preacher, right? What of the basic doctrines does this proverb support? And then again, how do you know it's true? What should you be doing in your life to live it more fully? I'll give you another example of a proverb that I hope you take time to teach. Proverbs 31. Proverbs 31. It says the characteristics of a virtuous woman, right? A virtuous woman is far above rubies. Well, virtue should be addressed at this point. Now, I want to share, if you go to the Preach My Gospel, the missionary handbook, there is a whole section in there about virtue, on Christ-like attributes. I would probably open up that. It's in the gospel library. Everyone has it. Maybe study at home and say, okay, here are the Christ-like attributes. One of them is virtue. Why is virtue so important? And then here's some possible questions, and you can craft your own questions. Why do you think virtue is an important quality to have? I would have my class really ponder that. Maybe give everyone a piece of paper and say, I want you to write. And is the same value, is the virtue the same value for men as it is women? Because it talks about the virtue of a woman. But what about for men? Maybe ask a class. Ladies, is it important to have a virtuous man? Men, is it important to have a virtuous woman? Why? And testify of that. Another question. What is an example of developing virtue that can lead to blessings? Or how can we develop virtue? Or how can we increase our virtue? Maybe there's a discussion you can have about what are some of the things that we can do to be more virtuous in our thoughts, in our deeds, our actions, in our heart, and have that discussion. I think there's some good things with there. Ecclesiastes. Well, I'll just briefly talk about this one for a moment. Little note from a teacher manual. The teachings of this book seem to be directed at individuals who do not believe in God, or at least are not yet fully committed to Him. So maybe we can say, what teachings is in the Ecclesiastes that we can use to help testify to non-members, those of other faiths? I think there could be some interesting questions in there. And maybe have students just go through those verses or just read them. Let's read. When we find a truth, again, can we clearly state it? How can we reword it so it's plain and simple to understand? Because when we have truths that are plain and simple, the Holy Ghost testifies more powerfully than, I don't quite understand this truth. It's hard for the Holy Ghost to testify of something we don't understand. So how can we restate it so it's clear, plain, and simple? And then again, how are we living this? What adjustments can we make in our lives if we're not living it? Why is it important? How do I know it's important? How do I know it's true? And then have some testimony of writing this. Maybe have class write some basic truths down that they know. If I'm nice to my mother, I'm happier. Something simple like that. Well, good luck. There's some great things in there. Keep teaching, keep learning, keep studying, and have a great week.